All right, now you're finally ready to set up your own services. So to get that done, you just click on this Add Service button here. And essentially, you type in the name of the service. So we'll just call this Jeff's Kayak Service. Now, this part is pretty straightforward here on the details. I won't put too much information here. You'll only see this second box if you have multiple locations. If you don't have multiple locations, you won't even see this. If you have multiple locations and you offer this service at all of them, then you don't need to click this. Just leave it blank. But if you only offer this service at one of or any of the few locations, you can just select the locations that you offer it at. So we sell this at both locations, so we just leave it blank. You could put a description. I won't write one here now, except hello. And now here is where you want to add variations of this service. So let's say this is a kayak rental. So we'll say Jeff's Kayak Rental. And let's say we do it for 30 minutes. So kayak rental, 30 minutes. Now it's important that you want to be descriptive here with this because as you create more and more services, you want to know exactly what each variation is for. Here you have a seat rule. So this means, is this shared or not shared? So let me give you an example of something that's shared. We offer parasailing tours and we have one boat for the parasailing. So if it's shared, that would mean that a group of 4 people can book, and then another group of 3 people, and then multiple people can make different reservations for the same time and date for that same activity. If it's not shared, I'll give you an example of that. Not shared activity would be, let's say we do kayak tours. So we have this set up as not shared because let's say a group of 3 people book a kayak tour. So there's 2 people per kayak. That means that there's going to be 1 person in a kayak by themselves. Let's say a group of 3 people book. Because it's not shared, they would have 2 people go 1 kayak and that other individual person would take their own kayak instead of joining with the other single person. Okay, we do this because you may not want your young daughter in a kayak by herself with another stranger. So you're able to say if it's shared or not shared. You have payment options here. So you can say if this requires either a deposit you want to collect only or the full payment. Okay, if you set deposit, you add the deposit amount first. So we can say we're going to collect $25 and let's say the total price is $35. Maybe we'll make this a little lower. Okay, and that's it. And you hit this little green button here, and now that adds that to your variations. So we'll do one more here just to keep this simple. And I'm just going to copy and paste this again, make it nice and easy, and change that. And again, we'll say this is not shared. And this time we'll just do the full payment and we'll say $60. And we'll add that there. And now we see that that's $60. You'll notice how this is blocked out because and if we want to add the deposit this time, now we can say this one is a $20 deposit and this is $60. And then you click add, and now we got our 2 variations. Okay. After you've set this up, the next thing that you want to do is go to your resources. Now, this is where our software really separates from the rest of the people, is that we've created this. It might look a little complicated, but it allows you for the most flexibility to create any kind of tour that you can possibly have. So the way this works is you have choose an option here, and you have 3 different options to choose from. You can either choose from customer equipment, employees, or company equipment. Having those 3 items really allows you to have the most flexibility. Now for this kayak rental tour, what we will do is it's a very simple one where essentially all they're doing is we're lending out a kayak and they can rent it for that amount of time. So we'll say that's a customer equipment. And now you have add new, or you can add it to a variation. Since we don't have any things created yet, we'll have to add new. And then you choose the different variations. So we have kayak rental 30 minutes and kayak rental 60 minutes. So let's say we want to add a kayak to both of them because both of them are going to require kayak. So this allows you to save time to create these services much quicker. So now we're going to choose equipment. You can choose any one of the equipments that you made, or if you're starting out and you don't have that equipment, you can add a new one. So all you want to do here is click this need to add a new resource button. And I'm going to just call this something different, Jeff's kayaks. And now let's say we have 6 of these. And it asks if they're multi-seat or single seat. These are multi-seats. We can have 2 people per kayak. And then it says seats or spaces. And essentially, like I said, we have 2 per kayak. And does this require maintenance? A kayak generally doesn't really require maintenance. Normally what you do here is you put things that you want to actually track. And these are things generally with engines that require more maintenance. Yes, you might have to repair a kayak, but we don't add it to our maintenance records. You can, of course, it's up to you. So we'll put no for now. All right, so we'll add this resource. Now we'll be able to see when we choose equipment that Jeff's kayaks are here. And we'll choose this. Now, here you have, is this seat-based or resource-based? Now, let me give you an example of both. So we'll go back to our kayak example. Because this is a kayak rental, the way we personally do it is if somebody rents the kayak for 30 minutes, we give them a kayak for 30 minutes. So that would be a resource-based service. Now, when we do our kayak tours, we charge per seat instead of per kayak. So that would be a seat-based tour. So for this one, we will use resource-based. All right, the next thing is the duration. So the 30-minute kayak rental goes out for 30 minutes and the 60-minute kayak goes out for 60 minutes, but we can just select one here and then we'll modify it on the individual one after. And then now this is per booking. So for every one booking, they're going to get 1 kayak. So now we'll add that. Now, let's say you were doing something as a couples package where they each get their own kayak, as an example. That means for every customer package that includes 2 kayaks, you would say 2 here. Okay, but since this is 1 kayak for 1 rental, we say 1. And now we're going to add that. And what that does is now you'll see under here, that adds the resources that we use for each of these services. So you'll look under here and the kayak 30-minute rental, which is here, it has customer equipment, Jeff's kayaks, it's resource-based, and the number of resources is 1, and it's being used for 30 minutes. Now, remember, we have to change that for this one. So you simply click here, and we're going to change that to 60, and that's it. This is a simple service that is now set up, and that's all the equipment or resources that are required. There's one final thing here is you want to create a label, and this label shows up when they're making a booking on your website, and I recommend always using a plural here. So 1 would be 1 kayak, so the number of kayaks, and then this will be the same for this. Okay. We'll move on to rules. I'm going to actually just do another video specifically for this resource section, just because there's a lot more to go through here, especially if you have more complex products and services. So I'm just going to move through this video and we'll set up a specific one just for resources. Everything else here is pretty straightforward. So rules, you have the minimum number to operate. So you can choose which variation you want. You can choose both of them if you want. So that gives you a lot of flexibility there. And you can say either, let's say it's a kayak tour and you need at least 4 people to book it before you take it out. So you can set that here. And if, let's say, only 2 people book and they haven't met the minimum, what that will do is add them to a wait list. And as soon as that wait list becomes over 4, it'll secure their booking. If it does not get met, then you'll be able to say, okay, within 24 hours or 48 hours, I want to notify these people that we didn't get the minimum booking for that tour and try and sell them something else, or let them know that that tour won't be going out because we didn't reach our minimum booking. Now you have a max capacity here as well. Generally, if you don't set this, you won't have a minimum booking. And if you don't set the maximum booking, it will go based on the number of resources that you have available. So if you have 6 kayaks for rentals, that means you can rent out 6 kayaks. Now, the reason we added this here is because let's say you have 10 kayaks and you do kayak tours and kayak rentals. Well, you might make more money from the kayak tours because you're instead of all 10, because you want to save some of those in case people are booking kayak tours as they're more profitable. So you don't have to set this, but it does give you the flexibility to not use all 10 kayaks for rentals, which is going to give you less money than if you had a few people book kayak tours at the same time. Here you can add a buffer to service. So essentially all that is let's say, you rent jet skis and it takes about 5 minutes before another person can get on because you have to check for any damages and whatever. There's some work that needs to be done. So you can set a buffer which goes on after the duration of the tour. Now keep in mind that let's say you're renting jet skis every half an hour and you need a 10-minute buffer or even a 5-minute buffer. That means you're only going to be able to rent one of those jet skis for 30 minutes in the hour, because it'll be 30 minutes plus 5 minutes for your buffer, which only leaves 25 minutes left, which means you can't rent another jet ski for 30 minutes in that same hour. So that's something to keep in mind with the buffer. Now, if you're renting them every 15 minutes, meaning that someone can rent them at 10, 10:15, 10:30, 10:45, 11 o'clock, 11:15, and so on. Well, if somebody were to rent it at 10 a.m., they would not be able to rent it at 10:30 because there's a 5-minute buffer, but they would be able to rent it at the 10:45 time slot. All right. Minimum booking notice. So again, you can choose the different variations. And what this means is simply you need at least 24 hours from the current date and time in order to get a booking for that. So if you have something that requires, a lot of effort to set up, or you need some notice, you can set up a notice. For example, with our parasailing, we say that we need at least 24 hours notice. So this way we can make sure our captain's available and so on. Again, if you don't set them, you don't have them, but they are there to set. And exclusion dates, let's say you are only open seasonal, you can, block off the summer or something, or block off the winter, and this way no one can book during that time. Availability. You have set times and range. So a set time is basically this tour only goes out at 10, 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. as an example. Or you can have a range of times. That's usually for like rentals. So essentially, let's say you're open from 10 till 4:30. You can set the range of times from 10 a.m. all the way to 4:30, and you want to set that every half an hour that a kayak tour or a kayak can be booked. So I'll just show you what one looks like. We'll set up for a range. We'll do both. I'll set up one for set times. So it automatically selects all days, but let's say you're not open on Saturday and Sunday. You can click those away. And let's say we want to do one at 10 a.m. So you just click add here, and that'll show that Monday through Friday, this tour is available at 10 a.m. And let's say we want to create another one for 1 p.m. You go to add, and now this tour is available. Oops, sorry, I didn't deselect this at the top here. So if I go back and recreate that and say we're only available Monday to Friday for 1 p.m. too, there we go. So we'll add that, and now it'll only be available from Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Now let's say I want to cancel all these and change them. You can change one individually, or you can cancel them all. And now let's do a range, and we go to apply. And same thing, you have the same date here. Let's say we're only open from Monday to Friday, and now we're open from, let's say, 10 till 4 p.m. Okay, and you want to rent this you can choose the amount of time you want to rent, but let's say we want to rent this every 30 minutes, and click add. And what this will do is create all the days of the week from Monday through Friday, and you're able to rent this every 30 minutes from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's the availability. Now, here you can click for internal use only. If you click this, this means that it will not be available to your customers to book. Here, you have custom fields that you can create, and let's say you need to get some information from the person before they complete their booking. For example, you might want each person's name. You might want to know if they're 18 years of age. So you can simply do this, and then you can choose which variation it's for. So let's say we need to know this no matter which variation they click, and you press add. And what this will do is on their booking page, it's going to show them this. And that means they're going to have to say either yes or no, which would be the options that you choose in the custom fields. So again, you can add this and as many as you want to any of the different services that you have and each of their variations. So again, these are questions or information you want to grab from the person while they're making a booking on your website. Okay, next we have our pricing tab. And if you want to delete one, you just simply click this, and now it won't show up for the 30-minute kayak rental. It'll only show up if they book a 60-minute kayak rental. Finally, we have pricing, and here is where you can create different dynamic pricings. So you just click new, and essentially we have 5 different dynamic pricings. So you give it a name. Okay, so you have group rate here. If you choose this, you'll notice some of the options change. So a group rate is basically setting the price for groups. So if you want to give them a discount, you can say group rate. This is the label that the guests will see. You choose which variation you want to set it for. Each one needs own. So you can say when there's a group of 4 to 8 people booked, well, this is per kayak. So let's say, we'll say if they're booking if they're booking 3 to 6. So if they're booking 3 to 6 kayaks, we'll give them a group rate. And now you set this as the base price for all the kayaks. So let's say this is for we'll do the 60-minute rental, and we set the price at $60. So let's say one person books 3 to 6 kayaks, we can say that they're going to pay only $50 per kayak. Okay, so if they book 2 kayaks, that means they're going to pay $120 total because it's 60 per kayak. However, if they were to book 3 kayaks, they would be paying $150 total, $50 per 3 kayak. And you can set multiple ones. So if you have, even bigger groups or even more equipment, and you want to give a discount for people that are booking between 6 and 10 and make the price go down even less, you can create multiple ones that all work together. All right, so you save that, and now we've created this, and you have to hit this green button here, or the red, to turn it green, and that makes it active or deactive. Same way with the services. And then if you want, you can click here and view it, and you can see the details there, and then save it again when you're done. And you can make it active. Okay, the next one is a last minute booking. So what that means is if you click here, again, you can give it a name, last minute Jeff's kayak rental. And what that means is we can say last minute deal. And then again, let's say we'll use the same one, 60-minute kayak. Now, basically you can either raise the price or lower the price, and you can set the number of days. So if they're booking within 1 day of the tour, so let's say I'm booking something for now, nice flexibility here. And this is something you see all the time that the airlines do or hotels do. They'll either make it more expensive or less expensive based on if it's a last minute deal or not. And then you would add again the base price of this. So let's say I want to make it, if they're booking last minute, I want to make it $1 amount, and it's going to be an increase of price, and this is the amount that it's going to be increased by. So if I want to say I want to increase the amount by $10, then now the kayak will cost $70 if they're booking within the next 24 hours as opposed to $60. All right, save that. And then if you want, you can activate it. And then same thing, we'll do another one. Availability rate. This is a big one here. Now, this can be used in two ways. I'm not going to name it. I'll just kind of go through it and stuff. We don't need to keep saving them, but just to show you, again, you give it a label. You choose which variation it's for. You can make it for this one. So the way availability rate works, let's say you have a kayak tour. Now for us, whether we take 2 people or 12 people on a kayak tour, it's pretty much the same cost for us. So we can say as soon as 2 people book and there is 10 spots available, because we have a max of 12, that means we can either increase the price to make it more expensive or decrease the price. And we can, same thing, do it by a percentage amount or a dollar amount. Now, the power of this is, again, whether we take 2 people or 12 people, it's the same cost to us. So if 2 people book already, then we might want to lower the price of this tour and then use it as an add-on or an upsell because we want to get more people on it, since each person that now books this tour is pure profit. So you can do that. The other option of using availability rate is, let's say you know this tour typically sells out during this period of time in your peak season. So what you can do is, let's say, again, you have 12 people. If, let's say, you fill up 8 seats already, well, you can make this number of spots available is 4. So you have 4 seats left. And now what you do is you want to increase that price because you know that that tour is going to sell out. So you can automatically, as soon as that tour gets to 8 people, you can increase the price because it's a hot selling item. So that's how availability rate works. Then you have a date range. This is more set for if you have peak season and slow season, if you want to give specific rates. So in your slow season, you might want to drop your price by 10%, let's say. You can do this, and that means it's going to decrease your price by 10%. You can also do, you want to increase your price by 10% during peak periods. If, like, let's say the Christmas holidays is super busy, you can do this, and that automatically sets us up, and you just select a date. So let's say during Christmas time, I know that, these weeks are my busiest time, and I want to increase the price. Let's actually make this to the 31st. So between this time, I want to increase the price by 10% because we usually sell out during these months. So that allows you to give full flexibility in creating dynamic pricing. All right. Next, we have our photos. So This is pretty simple. You can upload photos and you can just select from your computer or your phone, and essentially that'll add the photo here. You can add more if you want to add multiple ones. They're probably all going to look the same as that, but essentially you can add multiple tours here. All right, you can delete them if you want and you don't want that anymore. And now if you want to add videos, you can do that as well. Just read the instructions here. I'm not going to go through it, but essentially what you want to do is grab, if you're grabbing a YouTube or Vimeo, and you simply want to paste, and then you go back here and you can add this here. And now that'll add the video for you. All right. And that's it. That is it for our services. Again, if you have more complex services to add, what we'll do is go through this resource part again. Pretty much everything else here is straightforward. We'll go through this resource section in the next video.